Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase, and I'm here with a very important message. We are at a turning point in the Black community where we must have equity in the apps we use that scale to billions of dollars. But this time, we own the infrastructure, we own the culture, and we shape the future. And Fanbase is the future. Fanbase combines the free functionality of Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube into an all-in-one platform built for the evolution of social media and monetization. With over 1.4 million users, that's real proof that we are shifting the conversation of tech ownership and equity for creators. So right now, I want you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. This marks a turning point in Black ownership of social media. If we don't take this opportunity to own social media right now, we will always be customers to our own creations. And that can't go on. So once again, go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. We must own the platforms where our voices live, our stories matter, and where our culture drives the world. Thank you.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today's Thursday, November 6, 2025. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. North Carolina's new Republican-drawn congressional maps, those racist gerrymandered maps, are headed to court. The first lawsuit challenging the legality of the maps has been filed. It's day 37 of the longest government shutdown in American history. Flights are being canceled, paychecks missed, families struggling, and still no end in sight. We'll break down what Democrats are doing to push for a deal. A federal judge says the Trump administration must pay full SNAP benefits for November by Friday, a lifeline for more than 42 million Americans relying on food assistance. The battle for labor power is heating up. The Teamsters national election could reshape the future of the labor movement, and they could get their first black president as he challenges current president and MAGA lover Sean O'Brien. After decades at the top, Nancy Pelosi is saying goodbye to Congress. We'll talk to her former communications director. Plus, MAGA maggot Megyn Kelly sure has a lot to say about black people, especially black women and their hair. Yeah, I got to smack her little silly ass, and y'all know I can't wait. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got whatever the best, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Folks, Republicans in North Carolina, they gerrymandered their map. Now they are being sued as a result. The maps will weaken black voting power. They got rid of the congressional district of CBC member Don Davis. Is also going to reshape another district as well. Now, the lawsuit Williams versus Blackwell was filed by black residents and voting rights advocates who say the new maps intentionally discriminate against minority voters and dilutes black power, which are violations of the 14th and 15th Amendments in the Voting Rights Act. Federal judges have scheduled a crucial hearing for November 19th in Winston-Salem to consider a preliminary injunction that could block the new congressional map. This hearing comes just 12 days before candidates are set to begin filing for North Carolina's 2026 congressional elections, making it a pivotal moment for the state's political landscape. Now, understand what's going on here. Republicans, of course, all across the country are trying to gerrymander as many maps as possible. Why? Because they are scared to death that they're going to lose next November. Donald Trump has demanded they do this. And so, of course, we saw what happened in Texas. We see what they're doing in Missouri, in Indiana. Kansas has backed off. We see what's happening. Florida's talking about this here. Of course, we know what Texas did. And so this is where we stand, where Republicans have power. And the problem is this here. Because of the Constitution in North Carolina, the governor cannot veto a bill dealing with redistricting. And so that's what is going on here. Let's go to our panel. Dr. Nola Haynes, Georgetown University School of Foreign Service out of D.C., Dr. Greg Carr, Department of Afro-American Studies at Howard University, Rishi Colbert, host of the Rishi Colbert Show on Sirius XM Radio, creator of the card game Am I Trippin' out of D.C. Greg, I want to start with you. You said beforehand that it was wise for voting rights advocates to use the 15th Amendment as a part of this pushback. Explain again to people why that's the case as opposed to the Voting Rights Act and Section 2.
Well, the Voting Rights Act in Section 2 is pursuant to the 15th Amendment. We know that Section 2 of the 15th Amendment enables Congress to pass all appropriate legislation to enforce the 15th Amendment. So it's not an alternative. It's an attempt to have Congress basically enforce the 15th Amendment. I like the 15th Amendment argument basically, and as you and I talked about, and you talked about this as Janae Nelson was making her oral arguments in the Louisiana case, Louisiana versus Calais. I think that argument to go straight to the 15th Amendment is really about protecting the right to vote in a more broad sense. When we were listening to oral arguments around Calais, it's clear they're trying to figure out a way to give legislatures the most flexibility possible. And what we're seeing in North Carolina By the way, the guy who helped them draw the maps in North Carolina is one of the guys who helped Ohio draw their maps. And of course, Ohio's maps, it was talked about a few weeks ago, are about as good as the Democrats could hope for in a kind of political gerrymander sense. I think ultimately the argument is to throw everything really in there against the wall, not only the Voting Rights Act, but a direct appeal to the 15th Amendment. And as we know, they've gone to court now in North Carolina. They're going to make both those arguments. But in sum, the Voting Rights Act of 1965 is Congress passed, President signed law that is pursuant to the enforcement clause, Section 2 of the 15th Amendment. So they should work in tandem.
Again, and so, Reese, as we look at what is going on here, the other thing is this here. Obviously, you have the Voting Rights Act, and that had to be renewed. It had to be constantly renewed, and it's been under attack. The difference with the 15th Amendment, you're talking about what is now constitutional. That was a constitutional amendment that had to be ratified by the states. And so what Greg is talking about here forces a really different type of constitutional challenge. In this case, you're saying, okay, y'all got to contend with the law, had to be ratified. You heard Kavanaugh and others like, well, does a law sunset in that callous? Janae Nelson with the NAACP LDF goes, whoa, hold up. There's no such thing as laws sunsetting. So like, what are y'all talking about? In this case, the 15th Amendment, that was the final of the Reconstruction Amendments. So that's a constitutional amendment that was ratified by the states. That sets up a totally different legal argument. And that's why I believe in this North Carolina case, they specifically are using the 14th and the 15th Amendments as opposed to Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Reese, go ahead.
Well, I would certainly defer to the great Dr. Greg Carr on the legal merits of that argument and to yourself. But I think what we will see is this really a case about arguing the merits of the case? Is it really a case about the Constitution and the text and the intent behind that? Or is it a case about power, grabbing power and solidifying white rule? So I think that part remains to be seen. But we've seen a Supreme Court that is willing to throw out precedent, that is willing to disregard facts, disregard everything, every argument that's put in front of them, and just do whatever the hell Donald Trump says. So, I mean, obviously, I think that Janae Nelson and all of the folks that are arguing against these racist maps are doing the right thing, but I just don't have a lot of faith in the Supreme Court at this point.
No, a lot of people don't have faith in the Supreme Court, but again, legal arguments are critically important. I'll give you an example. Bishop William Barber, there was a lawsuit several years ago when they were trying to challenge the gerrymandered districts. I forgot the group that filed it, and it was out of North Carolina. And Bishop Barber kept trying to tell them, file the lawsuit alleging racial gerrymandering. Well, they didn't listen, and they kept just talking about gerrymandering. Well, he understood that the courts had already ruled, or were going to rule, that partisan gerrymandering is allowed. So what happened? They lost the suit. And Barbara's like, I tried to tell y'all, you had a greater shot at winning if you allege racial gerrymandering due to Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. And so for a lot of people who don't understand, and even people who are listening, because a lot of people haven't read the Constitution, Antoine, go to my iPad. 15th Amendment, it says the rights of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. Section 2 says the Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. So when Greg was talking, he was speaking about Voting Rights Act. That's actually Section 2 of 15th Amendment. This lawsuit is suggesting that the action of North Carolinians, these Republican North Carolinians, violates Section 1 of the 15th Amendment. So they're not even making a voting rights argument, a Voting Rights Act argument. They're making a constitutional argument that says the actions of these Republicans specifically is denying black voters denying their right to vote based upon the 15th Amendment. Your thoughts?
I have a lot of thoughts very similar to Reese said. You know, it's very clear that the Supreme Court is the tool for Donald Trump to completely rewrite the Constitution the way they want to rewrite identity, history, and culture in this country. But the question remains, just like with Congress, the thing that I deeply do not understand. I can understand you may feel a way, you have a worldview, you have certain ideologies, but why cede your power? That's the part of this that I do not get. Everything that you go through to become a Supreme Court justice, what do you get out of this in the long term to allow one person to undo settled law? You know, especially for those so-called originalists that are on the Supreme Court. Clearly not. Precedent is not your God, because they are so willing to dismiss it and sidestep it for this man. So, you know, my final thought here is, what is the stop to the Supreme Court? What is the bottom for them? When does it stop being about their ideology, which is extreme? It does not even match the way that the country is moving towards and where we are now. So what is the stop? Besides, yes, I know voting and all of that and all the different processes. But before we can even get there, are there any solutions to the Supreme Court giving Donald Trump everything that he wants?
Greg, the thing that people have to recognize is that the right-wingers don't care about the institution. The Federalist Society, their entire focus was to infiltrate. First of all, let's go back. The Federalist Society, set up by right-wing foundations and donors, Scapes, Mellon out of Pittsburgh and other places, they've been pissed off with the federal courts because of Brown versus Board of Education, because of the Civil Rights Act of 64, the Voting Rights Act of 65, the Fair Housing Act of 68, because of their legal rulings on Roe v. Wade, on other issues. And so they said, we have to create our own system to take over the courts to now rule on laws in our favor. So this Supreme Court, John Roberts, Amy Coney Barrett, Neil Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, Alito, Clarence Thomas, they don't believe in settled law. They believe that we can overturn whatever we want. And the fact of the matter is that power actually rests with the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court can change laws. Let's use North Carolina as an example. The North Carolina Supreme Court is now a 5-2 right-wing court, led by a right-wing ideologue who became Chief Justice. That person was pissed off when he wasn't chosen to be Chief Justice and Sherry Beasley was. That's why he ran against Sherry Beasley, beat her. She lost by 401 votes. Then a right-winger took his place. On the national Supreme Court, these folks say, we don't care about settled law. We want to change law to fit our ideology. So they don't care about the institution. Even John Roberts, he can claim about, well, we're concerned about the rule of law. No, the whole deal is, while we have the power, we know that our judicial rulings today could actually last the next 100, 200 years. So they have made an ideological decision. So the reason they are going along, Greg, with Donald Trump, because he appointed 3 of them. They now have not only 5-4, they now have 6-3. So even if they lose one of them along the way, they still got the 5. So they want to enshrine in law their vision of America. It doesn't matter where the nation is going. They want to say, the nation, y'all can go as far as y'all want to, but we going to tell y'all how you can roll. Greg, you're on mute.
And they are ideologues. Thank you, right. Roland. Thank you, brother. That's right. They are ideologues, and that is their vision. I think what we should always keep in mind, however, is how fragile that vision is. For those who listened to the oral arguments in the tariff case yesterday, there are two doctrines they basically invented, the right wing, the most extremist of the fascists, the major questions doctrine and the non-delegation doctrine. Yesterday, we heard Sotomayor, Kagan, and Ketanji Onyeka Brown-Jackson evoke those doctrines and use them as a weapon against the Trump administration's argument that the president can do whatever the hell he wants when it comes to tariffs. Precisely because this same court ruled against Joe Biden using the same theories when they said that Congress cannot delegate its authority to the president. That's the non-delegation doctrine, and the major question doctrine, saying that there are some issues that are beyond the scope, not beyond the scope of the law, but are so broad that they must be considered as almost transcending any particular statutory interpretation, the major questions doctrine. And they used that to say that Joe Biden couldn't forgive student loans, that he didn't have that power as the executive. Well, yesterday, in the oral argument, you hear the so-called liberal justices saying, okay, so is that the case? Yeah. And what you heard was an ideologue like Neil Gorsuch caught in an ideological trap because that judge made law, that interpretation, that broad overreach that is absolutely grounded in the work of the Federalist Society. I was in law school when the Federalist Society was started in the late 80s. He's now tied into knots. So is it going to be, you're going to drop all pretenses, like Nola said, and just go straight political and say, yeah, we meant that for Biden, but not for Trump? Because if you do that, you've destroyed the rule of law. And that, I think, is the line that they don't want to cross. John Roberts, who has destroyed in many ways the credibility of the Supreme Court by the 2010 decision on allowing unlimited money, the Citizens United decision, he has now realized in some ways that he has overreached. So you will see him sometimes join the three so-called liberal justices, and that just makes it 5-4 to your point. However, yesterday's oral arguments, at least the court watchers are saying, well, it sounds like maybe on this tariff issue, because of this ideological position that they've made up out of thin air, that Gorsuch may be a little nervous. Maybe Comey Barrett too, so it could go 5-4 the other way, or maybe even 6-3 the other way, because Alito and Thomas, they're straight ideologues. They don't give a damn. Now, all of that coming to this point as it relates to this question of justiciability, whether, in other words, whether or not something can be weighed in on by the courts. The political question as it relates to gerrymandering, they're saying political questions, political gerrymander, as you say, is non-justiciable. You can't bring that to the court. This is where this comes into play in this regard. We know elections are the purview of the states. We saw that in Ohio. The Ohio Supreme Court ruled that the redistricting commission that Ohio put together had drawn maps in a way that had diminished the capacity of people to be able to elect their representatives of their choice and have their voices heard in the way that the commission was set up to do. The politicians in Ohio didn't like it, but it was a state Supreme Court that did it. We saw the same thing in Pennsylvania. As you say, see the same thing in North Carolina. Then, when the right wing is not satisfied with that, they go to the federal courts. And here is where what you said about the 15th Amendment is so important. The Voting Rights Act does sunset. It is extended. We saw it extended under Reagan. We saw it extended under George W. Bush. We saw it extended for 25 years beyond that. We haven't reached that moment yet. So they got a two-pronged strategy. Number one, we want to destroy the Voting Rights Act if we can, which is simply an enforcement mechanism for the 15th Amendment, as you said. Temporary, perhaps, which is why Kavanaugh reached out and pulled a number out of his ass. Didn't even pull a number out like Senator O'Connor did with affirmative action. And instead of saying, she said 25 years, maybe we don't need affirmative action. Kavanaugh says, well, at some point in the future, maybe the near future, maybe now, we don't need it anymore. He's making it up. But what they're going after in Section 2 is to say, Section 2 really echoes the 15th Amendment. But Section 2 had been interpreted by judges to say, you got to show that states intentionally drew these lines to discriminate. Well, in 1982, they amended the Voting Rights Act to take the intent standard out. You don't have to show that they intended to do it. You just have to see the effect there. That's what Ketanji Brown-Jackson was arguing. But here, as you say, this is why Bishop Barber is trying to help them understand. The 15th Amendment, the plain language, which is, as you say, in the law, in the Constitution, and is permanent, that, if you argue that, you're then in the federal court arguing that set aside or hold distinct the Voting Rights Act. Let's just talk about the plain language of the 15th Amendment. And so here we are, and this is why elections matter. The court, as presently constituted, is probably going to try to diminish the Voting Rights Act and maybe even reinterpret the 15th Amendment. And again, to say that, no, it doesn't mean that you can't do these extreme gerrymanders. However, do you know what it takes to change the number of people on the Supreme Court? It's been done 6 times in U.S. history. You got to get a bill introduced in the House of Representatives, passed through the Senate, and signed by the president. If you win an election, did y'all hear Donald Trump at his luncheon when he was sundowning and talking crazy the other day? He said if they win, they're going to pack the court, and then they're going to let D.C. and Puerto Rico be states and get 2 senators apiece. Hey, man, you're acting like that's a deal breaker. It could change just that quick. The number that has been bandied about is 13. Put 5 more people on the court. You win the House. You win the Senate. You get the presidency. You can add 5 people to the Supreme Court tomorrow, baby. That's all it takes to change the number on the Supreme Court. We need to be thinking strategically, Roland.
Now, Greg, I also want you to explain to people, because you said first, it's happened 6 times.
Yeah.
We have explained why the number 13 is so important. And it's hard for the folk who say don't expand the court, because it's not packing. Let's be real clear. It's not packing the court. We know that FDR wanted to pack the court. So when we talk about expand the court, there's already precedent below the Supreme Court. Explain.
Well, I mean, you're talking about there are 3 levels of the federal courts. There are the district courts, there are the courts of appeal, and then there is the Supreme Court. The number at the district court level and the number at the courts of appeals level are usually commensurate with the populations. So it's a similar principle, not the exact same, but it's similar as we think about the number of Congress people, which is going to always stay at 435, and the number of senators, which always stays at 2. The hard cap on the House of Representatives is 435. But if population moves from, let's say, New Jersey to Texas or New York to Florida, then as the population changes, that number is going to stay the same at 435. But where that number manifests is going to change depending on what the population is. The district courts have a certain number based on the population, based on the number of states. The courts of appeal, which are clustered around the various, there are 11 courts of appeal, and then you got the federal appeals court as well. Those numbers are consistent, again, with the regions, but the Supreme Court doesn't have those restrictions. When Roosevelt tried his court packing plan, politically, it intimidated the existing court, because what he was worried about was that they were going to find all those New Deal policies unconstitutional. So when they say America's not a socialist country, as we were talking about the other night during the election coverage, yet it's socialist when it comes to Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, Roosevelt was worried that they were going to say you can't do Social Security, you can't do FDIC, you can't do those federal programs because they are in contravention to the Constitution. So he said, no problem. I'm going to add some judges, and I'll get some judges who will say they are constitutional. Ultimately, the plan failed. The Congress didn't back him on it, but it sent a message to that Supreme Court. Fast forward to 2026, the midterm elections. If you elect enough Congress people to the House of Representatives, you elect enough senators, not enough senators, enough senators, either in 26 or 28, and you elect a Democratic president, but you're going to have more than just 1 more than the Republicans in the Senate or 2 more than the Republicans in the House, because what that is going to do is trigger those Democrats who are hiding right now. John Fetterman is a Republican for what I'm talking about right now. So you're going to have more than 1 or 2 people in the majority in the Senate. And ultimately, if you can do that, get that bill, you go to 13. The reason it's 13 is because it has to be an odd number. Because ostensibly, that means you're never going to have a tie unless somebody recuses themselves. But as long as you have an odd number, the likelihood is that you're going to have a ruling one way or the other. And if you put 5 justices on the Supreme Court, you're basically talking about everything that you want to run the table on. That's voting rights. That's police brutality. All of that stuff. Because what we are dealing with isn't the plain language of the Constitution. It isn't. This is what Ketanji Brown Jackson keeps dragging them back to in her dissents. It is the interpretation of the Constitution by judges. And there are 2 standards that have generally been bandied about. One is strict interpretation, what they call the originalist position. We want to know what the founders meant. Guess what? George Washington was dead as a doornail when they passed the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. Ketanji Brown Jackson is like, since he wasn't around, let's look at what the authors, Hingham and Charles Sumner, what did they mean by the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments? If you read that, it's clear they meant it to protect us, people of African descent. This court has ignored all that. They don't want to be originalists when it comes to the Reconstruction Amendments, only to their slave master friends back in the days of yore. When they do that, however, all that can be changed by who's sitting on the bench. That is not constitutional law, plain language. It is statutory interpretation. So you change the judges, you change the law. It's that simple. And how do you change the judges? You go your ass to the voting booth. It's just that simple, bro.
So for the people who are watching, you heard Greg say that it's changed 6 times. And so I go to my iPad. Yeah, this is, if you go to supremecourt.gov, and I know some people watching right now like, man, y'all like going deep into this. I think I'm in school, because you should be learning. Do understand something. We didn't always have 9 Supreme Court justices. In fact, in American history, we've had anywhere as few as 5 and as many as 10. 9 is not a magical number. There's nowhere in the Constitution where it states you can only have 9 Supreme Court justices. Now, let me explain this to you. The reason I asked Greg, why is 13 a magical number? Because he talked about having 13 Supreme Court justices. Go to my iPad. It's because when you look at the circuit court in America, there are 13. That number is important. Why did they create that? They said because there was so much work they needed to have the expansion on the circuit court level. So go back to my iPad, please. Thank you. Stay there. You see right here. Okay? The establishment of a federal judiciary was a high priority for the new government, and the first bill introduced in the United States Senate became the Judiciary Act of 1789. The act divided the country into 13 judicial districts, which were, in turn, organized into 3 circuits: the Eastern, Middle, and Southern. The Supreme Court, the country's highest judicial tribunal, was to sit in the nation's capital and was initially composed of a Chief Justice and 5 Associate Justices. For the first 101 years of the Supreme Court's life, but for a brief period in the early 1800s, the justices were also required to, quote, ride circuit and hold circuit court twice a year in each judicial district. So, why is that important? The United States Supreme Court, being the highest in the land, they actually don't hear a lot of cases. They hear a very small, I'm talking about a minute number of cases.
That's right.
One of the reasons you've seen the expansion of the court, because they've said, wait a minute, we need more judges. There are more cases. Jesse Helms, when that racist represented North Carolina, he blocked black judges from being appointed by saying, oh, no, we don't need any more judges on the 4th Circuit. We're good. We're good. Even though they had case overload. You've had federal judges say, no, we need to expand the number of federal judges because we have too many cases. So if you say you have 13 circuits, why can't you have 13 Supreme Court justices? I need y'all to understand what I'm saying here. See, this is why y'all got to understand language matters. You should not be using language, pack the courts. Listen to what I'm telling y'all.
Right.
Pack the courts is a loaded phrase. Pack the courts then leads to this, line. You're trying to take it over. No. I'm simply stating you expand the court. You expand the court so the Supreme Court can actually be on par with the circuit courts. 13 circuit courts should be 13 Supreme Court justices. Now, if you add 4 Supreme Court justices, they can actually now rule on more cases. They can hear more cases. We're paying them. These are supposed to be the most brilliant legal minds in the world. Why do they have to rule on so few cases? That makes no sense. They could be literally hearing oral arguments multiple times a day. Why do we have this, let's wait for the Supreme Court rulings to start coming down in May and June before they go for the summer break, and it's like 8 and 10 cases? That makes no sense, y'all. It makes no sense. And so to Greg's point, when you don't vote and then you complain about the Supreme Court, then you're actually taking away your power to eventually change the Supreme Court. To his point, to change the Supreme Court does not require a constitutional amendment. I love all y'all people who keep yelling about the Electoral College. Let me be clear. You're not changing the Electoral College. Now, I love the folks who said, oh, man, that's what you said about reparations. Okay, but I'm telling you right now, to change the Electoral College, you're going to have to go through the House, the Senate, the President, and then have it ratified by a whole lot of states. Do you think that North Dakota, South Dakota, Idaho, all those small states are going to ratify the change of the Electoral College? The answer is no. So what are we talking about here? How can you make D.C. a state? How can you make Puerto Rico a state? Simple law. House, Senate, President. A constitutional amendment is here. A law is here. Understand. So if you change out, so let's just say right now, let's look at the election next year. Let's see. Reese, you know offhand for the audience, how many Republicans are now in the U.S. Senate?
I don't know offhand.
So it's like, well, they obviously got a majority.
Oh, in the Senate, I think it's 53 or 54. Is it 53?
Yeah, 53. So,
Okay.
So you got it. You 53. So here's the thing, folks. 53. There's an election next year. Susan Collins can be beaten in Maine.
No question.
Now there's 52.
Yes.
Joni Ernst is not running in Iowa. Iowans are really pissed off with Trump and his policies. You're now down to 51. If the folks in Texas, if the MAGA people support corrupt-ass Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton over current United States Senator John Cornyn, Texas could be in play. If black folks maximize their vote in Texas, young folks do, and they pick up significant Hispanic and 1/3 of white support, I think, first of all, let's be real clear, she hasn't announced. I think, depending upon data, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett is going to run for the United States Senate. Colin Allred ain't got a chance. James Tallarico ain't got a chance. Beto may run, but he's already lost twice before. You could have a massive upset in Texas. It's 50-50.
That's right.
Ossoff is in Georgia. Roy Cooper is running in North Carolina, former governor. Now you're looking at 51-49 Democrat. 51-49 Democrat. So, again.
You also have potentially Sherrod Brown in Ohio.
Yep, you got Sherrod Brown running. You got that for that particular seat as well. And guess what? 52-48. Now,
Yeah, which would beat Fetterman, no question.
yeah, because we already know Fetterman is going to be the reincarnation of Cinema and Manchin.
That's right.
So we already know that.
Got him.
So Fetterman is going. So the question is, how do you get to it? Let's keep in mind that U.S. Senate race in Alaska is not a lock for the Republicans.
That's
True.
So I want people to understand what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is, how do you begin to change power? And you begin to change power. Go to my iPad. We were talking about those states. You see it right here. You see Maine. You see North Carolina. You see Georgia. You got New Hampshire. Democrats are going to have to sit here and hold New Hampshire. And then, of course, you got, because the retirement of Jeanne Shaheen there. And then, of course, you got Michigan. You got to hold Michigan as well. And then you got to hold Minnesota. So the bottom line is, if you all of a sudden say, pick up North Carolina, pick up Maine, pick up Texas, pick up Iowa, that's 4 seats. Again, depending upon how stuff, Trump keep doing what he's doing, it's going to be some pissed off Alaskans. But here's the most important thing. If you sit your ass at home and complain, Democrats can't win the Senate. You can't change the Supreme Court. You can't pass any laws. You can't do anything. It's all based upon voting. And for the people who say tangibles, you can't get a single tangible during an election. You can only get a tangible if a person wins. And so I know it felt like y'all were sitting in class. And I know some of y'all watching and listening, your eyes glossed over. You were like, oh, my God, this reminds me when I was in government class in school. Well, that's also part of the problem, because too many people weren't paying attention to government class in the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. They were daydreaming in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. The problem that we have right now is people don't understand basic civics. And the reality is you cannot achieve anything in this country policy-wise if you do not change the politicians who are in office. That's on the city council level, county government, school board, state, federal, and the federal folk impacts the U.S. Supreme Court. The president appoints Supreme Court justices. The Senate advises and consents, meaning they can confirm or deny. All of these things are interrelated, all of them. So whoever wins the presidency can appoint the United States Supreme Court justice, and they must be confirmed by the senators. And that Supreme Court justice literally rules on laws that are passed based upon lawsuits that are filed against the city, school board, county, state, and federal. So while you may be watching me right now saying, well, I like the sister in North Carolina who called me in 2016, who said she wasn't feeling Hillary Clinton. She says, I'm going to focus on issues in my state. And I said, really? Can you tell me the 3 top issues you care about? And she did. And I drew a direct line between who was president and the Senate to the issues in her state, because it never dawned on her while she was fighting for laws in her city, she didn't realize that somebody could file a lawsuit in federal court against that law, and the Supreme Court could rule on that law in her city. She thought because it was the city, the federal Supreme Court had no jurisdiction on that, but that is not the case. The United States Supreme Court is the law of the land. They are the final arbiter of laws. Congress can pass a law, but are y'all aware that even the Supreme Court could declare a law passed by Congress to be unconstitutional? So you better understand, if you sit out and check out, then you lose out. I'll be right back on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Violent white supremacy is, quote, the most persistent and lethal threat in the homeland.
The greatest terrorist threat to the homeland is the homegrown violence stream, including hate crime committed on behalf of some kind of white supremacist ideology.
They are coming after everything in Black America. MAGA and Donald Trump are specifically targeting Black America. They are going after the money. Attack Black Lives Matter. Attack critical race theory. Attack woke, DEI. MAGA wants to defund Black America. This is a perfect example of their desire to completely degrade and de-emphasize Black people.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. The United States is the most dangerous place for a woman to give birth among all industrialized nations on the planet. Think about that for a second. That's not all. Black women are 3 times more likely to die in this country during childbirth than white women.
These healthcare systems are inherently racist. There are a lot of white supremacist ideas and mythologies around Black women, Black women's bodies, even Black people, that we experience painless, right?
Activist, organizer, and fearless freedom fighter Monifa Akinwole-Bandele from Moms Rising joins us and tells us this shocking phenomenon, like so much else, is rooted in unadulterated racism. And that's just one of her fights. Monifa Bandele on the next Black Table here on the Black Star Network.
Hello, I'm Bishop T.D. Jakes, and you're watching
Roland Martin, Unfiltered.
A federal judge has ordered the Trump administration to fully fund SNAP benefits for November by Friday. The ruling rejects the administration's earlier plan to only partially provide aid to 42 million Americans. The order follows urgent pleas from plaintiffs who emphasize the risk of hunger for millions, including children. Last week, Trump folks said it would not tap into a congressionally authorized $4.65 billion contingency fund designed to keep SNAP fully funded during emergencies. However, the judge ruled that this refusal poses an immediate threat to food insecurity for vulnerable families. Meanwhile, we're on day 37, the longest government shutdown in American history. Senate Majority Leader John Thune says Republicans are waiting on Democrats to respond to a proposal that includes 3 full-year funding bills and a promise to reconsider health care subsidies. A promise to reconsider. Yet Senate Democrats are meeting probably to decide their next steps. House Speaker Mike Johnson remains noncommittal on a vote for health care subsidies. Fueling concerns the stalemate could continue for longer. They also are trying to play a game because, see, Democrats are like, wait a minute, why should we cut a deal if y'all going to then turn around and ignore the deal? Here's House Democrat Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
This is day 37 of the Trump Republican shutdown. And the position of House Democrats remains the same. We will not support a partisan Republican spending bill that continues to gut the health care of the American people. We're ready, we're willing, we're able to sit down with our Republican colleagues anytime, any place, in order to reopen the government, to find a bipartisan path forward, and to decisively address the Republican health care crisis that continues to crush people all across the country. Tens of millions of Americans who are in the open enrollment period right now are seeing their premiums, copays, and deductibles skyrocket, in some cases, by $1,000 or $2,000 per month. That is unsustainable, particularly in this country right now, which is experiencing an affordability crisis. Life has gotten more expensive under Donald Trump and Republican policies. This is from a group of people led by Donald Trump who promised that costs were going to go down on day one. Costs haven't gone down in America. Costs are through the roof. Housing costs are up. Grocery costs are up. Child care costs are up. Electricity bills are skyrocketing. And now, because of the Republican refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, health care premiums are going to drive some people into medical bankruptcy, and tens of millions of folks won't be able to provide a doctor when they need one. That's why we have to decisively address the Republican health care crisis. And that's why we need Donald Trump to show some leadership. Stop hiding. Show some leadership. Direct Mike Johnson and John Thune, both of whom work for you. Donald Trump is the puppet master of congressional Republicans. Show some leadership. Direct them to sit down so we can authentically enter into a bipartisan negotiation and end this Republican madness now.
Reese, very simple. Democrats cannot and should not give in, force Republicans to cede to their demands. Don't fall for the promise to consider subsidies. No, make it happen.
Well, to borrow from our alphabet gang friends, cut the check. Do not allow Republicans to give you absolutely nothing when Republicans just got their ass kicked on Tuesday, because Americans are sick of Republican shit. They are sick of MAGA. They are sick of Mike Johnson. They're sick of John Thune. They are sick of Donald Trump. A potato sack could have won half of these elections if they had a D next to their name as opposed to an R. We cannot trust the Republicans to negotiate. Of course, they want a 3-year funding deal to get so that Democrats never have another chance to have leverage unless the levers turn over to a Democratic majority. Here's the thing. What Republicans are doing right now is they are trying to maximize pain, maximize cruelty, and maximize the harm that they are inflicting on the American people. The reason why our reality TV transportation secretary is cutting 10% of flights, starting 4% tomorrow and 10% by the end of the week, is because they want to make shit miserable for people. They want people to get to these airports and play Kristi Noem's propagandist video and blame Democrats for the fact that their flights are being canceled, when the fact of the matter is that Sean Duffy doesn't know what the hell he's doing. They've already attacked FAA air traffic controllers as soon as they got in office, and we've had multiple plane crashes on their watch. Donald Trump is withholding it, admitted as much, and the judge smacked him down for admitting that he wants to starve people and use these people's starvation and their inability to put food on the table as the equivalent of a gun to Democrats' head. He wants to extort the votes from Democrats, and Democrats should not fold. The reality is either cancel the fucking filibuster, Republicans, and use your own votes because you're in the majority in the Senate, you're in the majority in the House, and you have the White House, and open up the damn government yourself, or you get the votes that you need from Democrats by negotiating. Mike Johnson, call your little bitches back to Congress. You gonna have to have the Epstein files released. Get over it. Swear in the lady from Arizona and open up the government. Do your jobs. Period.
Nola?
1000%, you know, and everything that is happening, that everything that we're seeing, things that I'm hearing from people that are working still at these agencies, although none of them are really functioning at capacity, is, these secretaries, they won't go out and they won't say it, but they are catching hell back at their agencies, especially when we're talking about an agency like the FAA, because we're talking about lives, right? And I'm just now seeing that because USAID was shut down, now we are looking at close to 600,000 deaths worldwide. The bodies are adding up, and the bodies are going to continue to add up when children aren't able to get their SNAP benefits, because 34% of children are on SNAP benefits. Children. So yes, I place definitely a lot of blame at the feet of the Republicans. But the one thing that I do want to say about the Democrats is that, they are holding together. That is not an easy thing to do. But I am interested in what an exit strategy looks like, because real people are being affected and impacted. And, as someone who has friends and colleagues who still work in these agencies, who don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or the next week. They don't know if they're going to get back pay. This is very serious and has consequences for people's everyday lives.
But here's the thing here, Greg. The reality is people are being hurt across the board. They're being hurt when they cut SNAP benefits. They're being hurt with lack of health care. They're being hurt with healthcare premiums increasing. Not only that, you got members of Congress. I saw a tweet earlier from Congressman Emmanuel Cleaver, who said, first of all, back pay is literally the law of the land. Now, granted, you can have where Trump may think he can do whatever hell he wants to, but then you're going to have to run up against the actual law when it comes to this whole issue. And so that's the right. This is give me 1 second. This right here is the tweet from him. Federal workers are entitled to back pay following a government shutdown. Any attempt to withhold this pay from federal workers would be illegal and morally reprehensible. But here's the piece. If you do not use the leverage that you have, then you cannot gain any changes, especially with Republicans controlling the House, controlling the Senate, controlling the White House. This is how you have to use your leverage, influence, and power.
It's very true, Roland. And we talked about this again. We talked about it on Tuesday night. There had already begun a trickle of reporting that some quote-unquote moderate Democrats and moderate Republican senators were caucusing together quietly, trying to figure out the outline of a deal. And that the quote-unquote liberal or progressive senators were apoplectic, were furious. Well, that calculus changed Tuesday night, as we're talking about, when you saw this wave of people saying that's enough. It put, at least temporarily, enough steel in the spines of the so-called moderate Democrats in the Senate that they backed out now, apparently, as the reporting goes, from considering some kind of talks for a deal. And as far as the Republicans go, I embrace them because this is the last play they have left. The Republican Party is on the verge of death and collapse. The commercial news, entertainment, mass media has to continue to promote this idea that all the Democrats are in disarray, circular firing squad, because they're trying to sell ads and sell newspapers and draw eyeballs. But the reality is that the party that is in trouble in this country is the white nationalist party, because they're on the verge of collapse. They don't have another card. So when you read Judge McConnell's order today, and he was furious, he read from the bench before issuing it in writing. He said, I told y'all earlier, you've got to release this. And then you come back and say that you're trying, or the Agriculture Department has more new rules. And then watch this. This is crazy because one of the officials in the government said that they have been complying with the order. So now what the Republicans are doing right now is just straight lying. The master of it, of course, is the MAGA Muppet, Mike Johnson. He just gets on stage, and whatever it is, he says the opposite. The person behind this, the puppet master, if there's one person you can put this on, is that little nasty piece of work, that gnarled human soul, Russell Vogt, at the Office of Management and Budget. Because Vogt understands something, if he doesn't understand anything else. I can just get to the point where I just tie it up in administrative functions. Agriculture said we got new regs and it's going to slow it down. And when all else fails, I'll just ignore the courts. They've already said today they're going to appeal this. But here's where the calculus is going to ultimately break their back if the Democrats can stick together, as we've said. All you got to do is put people in so much pain that, like anything else that is unbearable, they move to remove the source of the pain. The sources of pain is Republicans. They're out of places to hide. And when they just go to the straight open divided court and straight lie, you know that their desperation has brought you almost to the brink of victory if you can just hold the line a little bit longer.
Absolutely. Folks, got to go to a break. We come back. We're going to hear from a brother who wants to become the next president of the Teamsters Union. Also, Brittany Noble will have our headlines. Plus, we'll talk about that maggot, Megyn Kelly. Why she keeps staying in black folks' business. This time, talking about Michelle Obama and the hair of black women. What your bony flat ass know about the hair of black women, Megyn Kelly? Yeah, I'm going to deal with her ass right here. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. Your dollars make it possible to do the stories that we do. If you want to contribute to us via Stripe, use the QR code to the left. Also, you can use that for Cash App and credit cards. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Checks and money order. Make a payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 7-0196. Back in a moment.
Violent white supremacy is, quote, the most persistent and lethal threat in the homeland.
The greatest terrorist threat to the homeland is the homegrown violence stream, including hate crime committed on behalf of some kind of white supremacist ideology.
They are coming after everything in black America. MAGA and Donald Trump are specifically targeting black America. They are going after the money. Attack Black Lives Matter. Attack critical race theory. Attack woke, DEI. MAGA wants to defund black America. This is a perfect example of their desire to completely degrade and de-emphasize black people.
It's your boy Earthquake, giving Roland Martin something to do, because he don't know what to do. He from Texas. Ain't his fault.
Folks, election for the next president of the Teamsters is next year, and it stands as a pivotal moment for the labor organization. More than 1.3 million members of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, one of the nation's most powerful unions, will choose between the current president, Sean O'Brien, who has gotten extremely close to MAGA and Donald Trump, and challenger Richard Hooker Jr., a Philadelphia Teamster who demands a union that truly serves working people. Richard joins us now from Chicago, where he's campaigning. Richard, glad to have you here. When did you make the decision that you wanted to be the next president? Was there something specific that caused you to say, you know what, it's time for me to challenge Sean O'Brien?
Well, we made the decision this summer because of all the things that have been happening within the Teamsters. His flirtation with the anti-labor, anti-working class administration and Donald Trump, along with a lot of our largest contract with UPS and some of the things that happened there. And we have to make a decision on where do we want this organization to go. And we believe now is the time because our members are not happy. Our rank and file members are not happy with the direction that the Teamsters are going in. And why not us? Why not now?
You talk about that, and the reality is that we saw Sean O'Brien speak at the Republican National Convention. He did not speak at the Democratic National Convention. He was not happy about that. And he also openly chastised Vice President Kamala Harris. He went on the podcast talking about how she walked in and she was insulting and how she expected their endorsement, even though she was the one who cast the critical vote to restore the pension, to pay out the pensions. Was it 600,000 Teamsters? This was the most pro-union administration since FDR, and you had other labor unions that were supporting this administration, and he acted like they hadn't done a damn thing for Teamsters and labor.
I know, and it's still shocking to all of us because it's one thing to support someone who you feel as though just a rubber stamp. But the other option has a resume that does not include helping working people at all. You're talking about his first term, rolling back labor protections. Then he gets back in there and look what he does to the NLRB. Look what he's done to the TSA workers. Look what he's doing right now to the federal workers. So to have a relationship with a person like that and to have an idea that you believe that this administration is going to help us, I still can't believe it. A lot of us can't believe it. And again, this is why things have to change within our organization. We can't continue down this road.
After they made the decision not to endorse her, and of course, the last time, if I'm correct, the Teamsters did not endorse, they didn't endorse Hillary Clinton. And so a lot of people are like, yo, what's up? Teamsters can't endorse women. Not only that, not a single Republican supported the American Rescue Plan that included that $36 billion bailout of Teamsters and other pensions. Not only that, the Teamsters, they're endorsing Vivek Ramaswamy for governor of Ohio when Ramaswamy and Elon Musk and Donald Trump were all joking about, guys, go to my iPad, come on. They were all joking about how, hey, if folks strike, you should be crossing the line. I mean, that right there, you're like, what the hell is going on?
I'm with you. And why do we put ourselves in a position where we want to trust a person like this? Like you said, to your point, Brother Roland, Elon Musk and Donald Trump were on a live line talking about, we like what you do with workers when they go on strike. You fire them. And this is who we align ourselves with. This cannot be the direction of the Teamsters. We're better than that. We're bigger than that. And this election is going to prove that members are not happy with the direction of the Teamsters.
What is your plan of action? What do you want to get done if you are president of the Teamsters Union?
So we're going to have to make sure that our members have open transparency, open bargaining, so they'll know everything that's going on in their contracts. With the threat of AI and automation, we're going to have to make sure that our local unions have resources to continue to fight for their members, because automation is going to take jobs, not just from our bargaining unit members, but also members within the working class. So how can we organize workers if they're not working? So we got to make sure that we help our locals out through making sure they keep some of their resources, not sending them to the IBT. And also we got to get rid of the retaliation and retribution that goes on in our international and our locals, because quiet as it's kept, the international union and this Trump administration are mirrors of each other. They want blind loyalty. If you don't give it to them, they'll come after you with guns blazing. And so that's why the Teamsters need to move in a more progressive, a more transparent, and a more honest direction, and that's what we're going to deliver for our members.
I talked about what Sean O'Brien said about Vice President Kamala Harris, and they did not endorse her. And he describes that. He goes on the podcast of white nationalist Tucker Carlson and talks about her. I guess he forgot when that vote came up, she was the tie-breaking vote that saved the pensions of some 600,000 Teamsters. This is what he actually said.
One of my vice presidents, a woman named Joan Corey out of my local, she sits on our general executive board, was at an event with Vice President Harris. And, you know, they're going through the line to get the picture, and Joan introduces herself to Vice President Harris, says, "I'm Joan Corey. I'm on the general executive board for the Teamsters." She goes, "Teamsters? You better get on board. You better get on board. Better get on board soon." So fast forward, she finally agrees to come after we were putting pressure on her, you know, basically, because I was doing interviews all over the place saying, we haven't got invited to the DNC. You know, they haven't accepted our invitation for her to come to a roundtable, so she comes to the roundtable. Same format, same questions. Rank and file members are asking her questions just like they asked every other candidate. And they were trying to negotiate with us. She only wants to answer 3 questions. We're like, there's 16 questions here. So she answers 3 of them. And on the 4th question, one of her operatives or one of her staff slips a note in front of me. This will be the last question. And it was 20 minutes earlier than the time that it was going to end. And her declaration on the way out was, "I'm going to win with you or without you."
Richard, Vice President Harris writes in her book, she knew walking into that room that, frankly, was a setup and she wasn't going to get the endorsement. And so she talked about that. But again, this is what amazes me. The Teamsters has 1.3 million members. She was the one who cast the vote, the tie-breaking vote that saved the pensions of half of the union. I'm sorry, if I save your ass with your pensions and not a single Republican voted for it, and you're Sean O'Brien and you're going to the Republican National Convention speaking and kissing MAGA ass, you damn right I expect the endorsement. Like, really?
Brother Roland, again, one thing that you may not know, the Teamsters have a issue with misogyny and race. Like you said, you know, a person cast the deciding vote to save your pension, and his pension got a whole lot of money, brother. I don't know if you know that, but his pension in New England got a whole lot of money. And so you would think that he would be the most appreciative and say, you know what, you know, let's go ahead on and support her. But again, when misogyny and race is more important than your pension, this is the outcome and this is the problem. And this is why we decided to run, because the Teamsters are not in a place where we're going in the right direction. Haven't been for a long, long time.
Questions from my panel. Greg, you first.
Thank you. And Brother Hooker, I mean, listen, man, I appreciate you. And you kind of answered the question I was going to ask when you mentioned race and misogyny in the Teamsters. I'm wondering how the rank and file, the membership, the folks you're trying to now pull together to support you and support your slate, what have been some of the fractures between the rank and file and this clearly racist leadership? I'm sure there's enough energy and there's enough support to get you in the office, but how do you plan on kind of reaching to folks through the rank and file?
So one of the things that we've been doing since this summer is going across the country, talking to all the rank and file members that we can, and tell them that there's a better option, there's a better way, and not just through talking, but also listening to their issues. And our platform speaks directly to those issues. What has plagued the Teamsters for many, many years is this transparency issue and things being done behind closed doors. So I've been a Teamster for 26 years, and I've worked for 20 of those years at UPS. For the last 6, I've been an elected official in my local. And so when we talk to our members, we know where they're coming from because we have that relationship because we've done the job that they're doing. And when we listen to their issues, we have experienced what they're going through. And so programs like this, talking to the members face to face and listening to them, as well as there was an article in The Guardian that did a piece on myself and the current general president. And it shed a light into the issues that plague our organization. The race issue, $2.9 million racial discrimination lawsuit, the retaliation issue with O'Brien has a long history of doing those kinds of things. And then you're talking about his flirtation with Donald Trump. All these things intertwine with who he is and how he's leading this organization. And when we tell people our plan and how we plan on changing things, it resonates with our rank and file members because that's how we're going to win this election, through the rank and file. The officers, they're going to be hit or miss. A lot of them are on a payroll. A lot of them are scared because of retaliation from the general president. And so, again, like you said, Brother Carr, we're going to have to make sure our message is about building power within the rank and file. And they see that with our platform.
Where is he?
Appreciate it.
Thank you for being with us. I'm a numbers girl, so I'm curious, mathematically, what does your path to victory look like? And what does that coalition look like?
Right. So if you look at the last election that the current general president won, we have 1.3 million Teamsters. Less than 200,000 members voted. Less than 200,000. So if we could get right now 400 people in every local to vote, we win this election. It's not going to be as difficult as people think because it's about 400 or some odd locals. So you're talking about 160,000 people that vote and turn out for us. We win. But again, we're going to have to make sure that we stay in front of our members, tell them our platform, reassure them that we're just not talking because, again, we have receipts to show who we are and what we've been doing. In 2019, I was the first African-American to be elected in my local in 623 in Philadelphia. Last month, we made history again by becoming the first administration not to have anybody run against us because we transformed our local. And that's the plan and the vision that we're going to do with the international. We plan on transforming the international. And we have receipts to show because, again, we've done it before.
Noah?
Thank you so much, Mr. Hooker, for this work. I've been in the union, I think, since I was 10 years old. So I definitely, I'm very pro-union. So what you're describing sounds like a culture situation. So much of this has sounded like easily could have been a scene in Irishman or very Hoffa-esque, when you talk about the culture of loyalty, not being transparent. And you also mentioned the positive things you've been able to do in your local. So how do you gauge that people are ready for change? Do you poll your members, or how are you gauging that people are ready for a culture shift? Because culture shifts in institutions like Teamsters, that's a heavy lift.
Excuse me, it is. We gauge our members by the conversations that we have and by us listening to their concerns. Everywhere we've been so far, every member has the same concern. We want to know what's going on in our union. We don't like how we're being treated by an employer, because I have a thing that I say: you can't stop the employer from dominating you and disrespecting you and retaliating against you if you don't first get rid of it in your own organization. And that's the thing that we're going to have to do in order to start winning against these employers. And our members are ready for that. Again, our largest contract is UPS. And a lot of people focus on UPS, but we also have another 1 million members who don't get that support that they need. Our pipeline members, if I told you guys some stories about them, you're talking about a group of workers who have to pay double the dues, but don't get the representation. How is that even possible, right? And then you talk about other workers, the sanitation workers and the airline workers. Look what's going on now with the airlines, So once you start listening to people and their needs, and you develop a plan, and they know where you're coming from, and you're open and you're honest, and you're talking about building power from the bottom up, not the top down, that resonates with workers. Because look what's going on in the working class right now. We are under a serious attack. And the only way that we get through this is by working together. But people need to feel that you have their best interests at heart. And they feel that when we talk to them.
All right, then. Well, Richard Hooker, when is the election?
Next November, a year from now.
All right. Well, you're going to be real busy over the next year. Keep us abreast of how this thing is going.
Yes, sir. Thank you again for having me.
I appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. All right, folks, got to go to break. We come back. We're going to have headlines with Brittany Noble. Then we're going to talk about that maggot Megyn Kelly. She always got something to say about black folk, especially black women. And she has some comments regarding Michelle Obama. And normally I ignore her tired, trifling ass. But I think it's important that I say a couple of words. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Shot Network.
If in this country right now, you have people get up in the morning and the only thing they can think about is how many people they can hurt, and they got the power, that's the time for mourning.
For better or worse, what makes America special, it's that legal system that's supposed to protect minorities from the tyranny of the majority.
We are at a point of a moral emergency. We must raise a voice of outrage. We must raise a voice of compassion. And we must raise a voice of unity.
We are not in a crisis of party versus party. We are in a crisis of civilization, a human rights crisis, and a crisis of democracy itself. And guess what? You've been chosen to make sure that those that would destroy, those that would hate, don't have the final say, and they don't ultimately win.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds. As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Week on the other side of change.
Book bans, anti-intellectualism, and Trump's continued war on wisdom.
This is a coordinated backlash to progress. At the end of the day, conservatives realized that they couldn't win a debate on facts. They started using our language against us, right? Remember when we were all woke and the woke movement and all that kind of stuff? Now everything is anti-woke, right? When we were talking about including diversity, equity, inclusion, higher education, now it's anti-DEI. All this are efforts to suppress the truth because truth empowers people.
You're watching The Other Side of Change only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Lavelle Crawford. I ain't wearing a bow tie today because I wanted to breathe. And you're watching
Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, so breaking news. Former NFL wide receiver Antonio Brown has been arrested in Dubai and is being extradited to the United States. He's been charged with attempted murder for firing into a crowd at an event in Miami in May. He fled to Dubai. I guess he didn't check the extradition treaties that exist there. So he is being flown back to the United States to face attempted murder charges. All right, folks, time for headlines. Here's Brittany Noble.
Acquitted a former Department of Justice employee who threw a sandwich at a federal agent in Washington, D.C. during an August protest. Sean Dunn was found not guilty of misdemeanor assault for hurling a hoagie after confronting a group of officers patrolling a popular D.C. nightlife area. The acquittal marks an embarrassing loss for federal prosecutors who pursued the misdemeanor charge after a grand jury refused to return an indictment on the felony assault count they initially sought. U.S. District Judge Carl Nichols, the Trump-appointed judge overseeing the case, called it the simplest case in the world. Well, a federal judge has issued a preliminary injunction limiting federal immigration agents' use of force in Chicago's Operation Midway Blitz, a ruling sparked by disturbing video and testimony. One incident sparked outrage citywide. ICE agents entered a Chicago daycare and forcibly removed a teacher, a legally authorized asylum seeker, in front of children. Chicago officials condemned the act as shocking and unacceptable. Judge Sarah Ellis sharply criticized the government for lying under oath, saying agents' body camera videos show clear evidence of excessive force, including tear gas deployed without warning, pepper bullets fired at protesters, and chaos instigated on the streets and outside the Broadview ICE facility. The judge's injunction orders agents to strictly adhere to constitutional limits on force and requires full identification and use of body cameras for officers in the field. Speaking of Chicago, a federal judge ordered U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement to immediately improve conditions at one of its detention centers after reports of overcrowding and unsanitary treatment of detainees. The ruling follows multiple complaints describing unsafe temperatures, spoiled food, and limited access to medical care within the facility located west of downtown Chicago. Civil rights groups say the case highlights the growing crisis inside U.S. immigration detention centers, where black immigrants, especially those from Africa and the Caribbean, are often among the most neglected and least protected. Advocates argue the decision is a major step toward accountability, but say broader reform is still needed to ensure humane treatment for all people held in federal custody. In its latest State of Black America report, the Urban League warns that decades of civil rights progress are being rolled back, from voting rights and education to housing and health care. President Mark Morial calls it a coordinated assault on equality and democracy, urging immediate action to defend hard-won freedoms. The organization is now mobilizing communities nationwide to push back through advocacy, organizing, and the courts. Well, the Urban League frames this as an urgent call to action, not just for Black America, but for the nation's future. A democracy willing to destroy itself rather than deliver justice is a democracy in crisis, warned Morial. He went on to say this is an emergency. The National Urban League urges vigilance, mobilization, solidarity, and support. Well, Black women are leading a wave of change in city halls. For the first time in New York history, voters elected Black women to serve as mayor. In Albany, Dorsey Pliers will be the city's first Black mayor, winning by a landslide after years of public service roles. Meanwhile, in Syracuse, Sharon Owens declared victory, becoming Syracuse's first Black mayor-elect and only the second woman to hold the role. She won the election in a landslide, claiming almost 75% of all the votes. Roland.
All right, Brittany, I appreciate it, folks. We're going to go to break. We come back. I got a few things to say about Megyn Kelly. Her trifling ass. She's always talking about Black people, especially Black women. So I'm going to deal with that when we come back right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. The United States is the most dangerous place for a woman to give birth among all industrialized nations on the planet. Think about that for a second. That's not all. Black women are 3 times more likely to die in this country during childbirth than white women.
These healthcare systems are inherently racist.
There are a lot of white supremacist ideas and mythologies around black women, black women's bodies, even black people, that we experience pain less, right?
Activist, organizer, and fearless freedom fighter Monifa Akinwole Bandele from Moms Rising joins us and tells us this shocking phenomenon, like so much else, is rooted in unadulterated racism. And that's just one of her fights. Monifa Bandele on the next Black Table here on the Black Star Network.
This week on the other side of change.
Book bans, anti-intellectualism, and Trump's continued war on wisdom.
This is a coordinated backlash to progress. At the end of the day, conservatives realized that they couldn't win a debate on facts. They started using our language against us, right? Remember when we were all woke and the woke movement and all that kind of stuff? Now everything is anti-woke, right? When we were talking about including diversity, equity, inclusion in higher education, now it's anti-DEI. All this are efforts to suppress the truth because truth empowers people.
You're watching The Other Side of Change only on the Black Star Network.
This week on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie, we're continuing our series of putting in the work, A Chef's Journey. Are you an aspiring chef? Someone who already has a business, trying to figure out what your next steps will be, who to talk to, and how to get there? Well, on this week's show, our great guest and wonderful chef will talk to you about what it means to discover your purpose, your why of being in the kitchen, and then knowing how to put a business together.
The menu controls everything. The menu determines everything. But the business plan is where you have to go back to.
When you get into the business, at the end of the day, social media and TV, all of that stuff is cool, but you still have to run a business. You still have to be in relationship with people.
That's all next on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie here on Black Star Network.
Lil Thompson with winwithblackmen.org. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, after a long time, the U.S. House, Nancy Pelosi decides that she is retiring. Made the decision today. A lot of people have been commenting on that. One of the people who worked with her as communications director is Ashley Etienne. She joins us right now. Ashley, your thoughts, perspective on this decision to Pelosi to finally retire?
Yeah, finally. It's upsetting to me. It's a sad day. It's the end of an era. But the reality is, all good things come to an end. From my perspective, I think, Nancy Pelosi is an object lesson in leadership and power. Take party out of it, take gender out of it, any other sort of negative. Just look at it objectively. And she is an object lesson, one that should be studied by all, no matter who you are, on how to boss up. And so, for me, I just was able to watch her up close and in those meetings, and it was like a masterclass in how to build and wield and leverage power, to watch her work with such clarity of purpose and conviction and a deep sense of purpose to the nation. It was incredible. And, she gave me opportunities to not only be at the center of history, but to make history myself, serving in the role that I did, leading the impeachment war room for Donald Trump. So, there's so much to say and unpack about Nancy Pelosi. She is by far the most effective speaker in our lifetime, as well as the most effective legislator of our lifetime, legislator, I should say. We look at the situation with the shutdown happening right now. Everyone's digging their heels in. You have somebody like Pelosi, who was a leader who worked with George Bush despite her opposition to the war in Iraq to get the biggest climate bill change. She worked with Donald Trump on trade agreements despite her opposition to his indifference to the Constitution and his oath of office. So to me, she's an object lesson in leadership, one that we should all study and learn from.
When she leaves, she will have served 39 years. When she also leaves in January of 2027, she'll be 86 years old. And there have been a growing cry among Democrats, it's time to replace the old guard. Now, when she stepped down as Speaker, Steny Hoyer stepped back, Congressman Jim Clyburn stepped back, but all three of them actually remained in Congress. And it was sort of weird to have the former top leadership of the Democratic Party still in Congress, where you have the new leadership. And that made things uncomfortable, frankly, for a lot of members, where in essence people felt that Pelosi was looking over the shoulder of Hakeem Jeffries and still wielding power, where he was trying to unite his caucus.
You said people felt that way?
Yes.
Oh, I mean, listen, I think it's a hard position for both of them to be in. I mean, because the experience, the expertise, the strategic sort of five-dimensional chess that Nancy Pelosi plays is invaluable to the caucus, especially in this particular moment. But I also understand Mr. Jeffries and new leadership saying that they need the space to actually figure out how to lead in this moment. So I've always understood both sides of this particular argument. And I understand Pelosi enough to know that there is some truth to her still trying to will power. I mean, you see Proposition 50 happening in California. She spearheaded that effort. I mean, she brought Holder and Obama together almost 10 years ago to look around the corner and focus on this redistricting effort. So it's hard to stop somebody like Nancy, but, you know, she's only got 1 year left and then it'll be, you know, all to the current leadership to lead.
Obviously, first female Speaker of the House, again, wielded power ruthlessly, if you will. And Pelosi had
at times.
No, a whole lot of times. Let's just be real clear.
I mean, that's the thing about Pelosi. She's got all the skills, soft, hard, and she weaponizes them at any moment, given what's necessary.
Yeah.
Are you rolling your eyes, Roland? Are you rolling your eyes?
No, I'm just saying, I'm going to say it wasn't sometimes. It was a whole lot of times.
But when you're in power in your leadership, sometimes you have to be.
No, I understand that.
Necessary. I mean,
I didn't say she didn't. I'm making the point that she did a lot. That's what happens. Yeah. So it's not like I'm saying it's a criticism. The biggest criticism I have of her is that she was pathetic when it comes to coming talking to black media, where I purposely call her out, and I thought it was shameful how she could easily go to CNN, MSNBC, where she wouldn't come talk to black media. I'll give you a story. When I was running those social media posts with her and Kente Claus saying, "Where's Nancy?" I heard back from her folks were not happy, or somebody told Don Brazile, "What does he think? This is going to make us come on?" So I remember when I called my man Joe Madison, I told him what I was doing. Joe said, "I stand with you 100%. So he goes on the air the next day, and he talks about me calling her out where her people were listening. And he told me point blank that he hadn't had her on like 4, 5, 6 years. He said, hell, I stopped asking. But when he said he stood with me, he said, man, when the show was over, his phone rang, and they said, Joe, can we come on? And she was on the next day. And so Joe said, Roland, he said, she wouldn't have came on if you didn't call her out.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And you know where my position has been on this particular issue. I've always pressed every one of my bosses to do more interviews with black media and black journalists, no matter if they're at black media outlets or not. And, you know, Pelosi was one of those that I would consistently push and encourage to do it. Obama, I mean, pick it and choose it. Kamala Harris, every one of them. I've always been a big proponent of black media, but more than just that, but speaking and talking directly to black voters. And the best way to do that is through black media. So I was always a proponent of it. The reality is, you know, a lot of these elected officials have people around them, and they're up and down throughout the party that don't agree with me on that particular issue and don't think that it's necessary to do a lot of black media. So that's always an imposition. But people like, you know, well, I can only speak for myself. I mean, I've always encouraged it. And even in that moment when you were protesting and making your point, I never discouraged you from doing that. You know, I was internally trying to push to make it actually happen.
Yeah. And so again, I mean, no doubt, man, she'll go down as one of the greatest speakers in American history. And it's definitely a hard act to follow. And so we'll see if when she steps away and the new Congress is sworn in, if that gavel is going to be handed to Hakeem Jeffries.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I got my fingers crossed.
All right. Ashley Etienne.
All right, have a good night.
Thanks a lot.
See you.
All right, then. Let's see here. Panel. Anybody got something to say about Nancy Pelosi before I go to my next story?
Yeah, Nancy Pelosi ain't never giving up power till they take her to the cemetery. And when they take her to the cemetery, she probably going to have a damn plan for figuring out how to rule from the grave. If I'm Hakeem Jeffries, I'm wearing bulletproof vests in the front and the back until she finally pulls her last card. Because if you think Nancy Pelosi leaving Congress is the end of Nancy Pelosi, you're not paying attention.
Reese?
Power concedes nothing. Nobody has to step aside for you to be powerful. If you powerful, you powerful. And Nancy Pelosi proved that, regardless of a title.
Noah?
Nancy is the GOAT. She will always be the shade queen, and she is about strategy. She's about substance. Was everything perfect? Absolutely not. But even with her stepping away, even if it's not fully on her own terms, it still keeps her legacy intact. And again, good strategy.
Absolutely. And also, when Brittany did that story on the sandwich dude being acquitted, I could not help but laugh. How stupid is Trump prosecutor Jean Pirro, Reese? I mean, they couldn't indict him on felony charges. They did some bullshit misdemeanor. And then you take it to trial and your stupid ass lose again. Now, granted, he was a DOJ employee. He gets fired. But Pirro looks like a damn idiot trying to prosecute that dude.
Listen, long live the sandwich king of D.C. I am here for it. He got arrested running this slow-mo shit. He got up. It's not so often that I root for a white man beating the case, but this man, give him all the things. Somebody give him a Subway,
he needs some Mike Subs or a Subway endorsement deal.
Something. Give him all the things. I love it. Always walk around with some sandwiches. But black people don't try that shit. Don't try that shit.
But I do love this headline that media I had. Foot long and fancy free. D.C. jury finds protester Antoine. Come on, bro. Thank you. D.C. jury finds protester who lobbed sandwich at ICE agent not guilty. Foot long and fancy free. All right, y'all. Let's deal with my last story. I try my best to ignore dumbass Megyn Kelly. The other day, she made a comment after Zohran Mamdani's speech. The mask is off. Well, first of all, her hateful mask has been off for a very long time. We knew her ass was trifling at Fox News, and then when she went to NBC, we knew she was full of shit there. That's why she lost her job there. Now, she walked away with $69 million. I don't know what the hell Andy Lack was thinking her ass was going to appeal to anybody at NBC and gave her all that damn money. They don't never give black folks those $69 million, work for a year and a half. Work for a year and a half, and then you walk away with $69 million. So now she's doing her own thing. She run around, got her own network. She on Sirius. New York Post promotes any dumbass thing this fool says. And so she always is weighing in on black shit. And if there's anybody who should have a big ass sign that says shut the fuck up when it comes to black stuff, it should be Megyn Kelly. Okay? So before I even get into her comments, let me remind y'all, this is what the dumbass Megyn Kelly had to say about Santa Claus when she was on Fox News.
Santa Claus should not be a white man anymore. And when I saw this headline, I kind of laughed and I said, oh, this is so ridiculous. Yet another person claiming it's racist to have a white Santa, And by the way, for all you kids watching at home, Santa just is white, but this person is just arguing that maybe we should also have a black Santa. But, Santa is what he is, and just so you know, we're just debating this.
Okay. Santa's fictional. So she was stupid as hell there. So you could have a black Santa, a brown Santa, a white Santa. But again, that's when you dumbass. She really was sitting here acting like they were having a factual debate over a fictional ass character. But anyway, so then when she took her ass to NBC Today's show, then of course she had to run her damn mouth when the issue of Halloween and blackface came up. Here's what this fool said.
Freedom of expression, this is not in our country, but freedom of expression is a beautiful thing. So is freedom of speech. It's part of why I like living in the United States of America. If you're going to dress like an idiot, act like an idiot, and actually dress and be racist, then somebody should say something to somebody, but you should still be able to dress like a moron.
But what is racist? Because truly, you do get in trouble if you are a white person who puts on blackface on Halloween, or a black person who puts on whiteface for Halloween. Like, back when I was a kid, that was okay as long as you were dressing up as like a character.
If somebody feels like something is offensive to them, then you should say it, and that's fair game, and you should be able to take it if you're going to dress up like that.
Yeah, you got to be able to take it.
Yeah.
I hope Megyn Kelly learned her lesson. Why don't you stay away from holidays? because your track record ain't good talking about holidays. So now we got the latest stupid shit. Now, earlier this year, she had the nerve to call Jemele Hill ugly. I mean, when you're a flat ass, skinny ass, bony white woman, you really should not be talking about the looks of other people, okay? And that's just a fact, okay? So here you have Michelle Obama sitting down with Robin Roberts. It was some special on ABC. And the former First Lady said this about her hair. Okay, we don't have the Michelle Obama comment? Okay, y'all, that's what's set up. Okay, so hold on. Let me, because that sets up the Megyn Kelly deal. So we should have had that. So, all right. So, and you know, first of all, I didn't see the special. I didn't even know anything about it. And it was just like, okay, fine. But then all of a sudden, I'm looking at some other comment, and they were talking about it. Well, actually, Michelle Obama was talking about the idea of straightening hair and things along those lines. And this actually was, I think this was the comment right here. So go to my iPad.
As women of color, that the way our hair naturally grows out of our head, it's beautiful, but if we struggle to make it look like the standard, that means we are spending thousands of hours and lots of money straightening out what is naturally curly hair, right? And that takes time out of your life. It costs money.
Interview that she did, that wasn't the one with Robin Roberts. So, white woman Megyn Kelly, who ain't got curly hair, who has no idea what any black woman has to deal with when it comes to her hair, her silly ass decided to weigh in.
Once again, we haven't lived up to their high standards, and we're essentially being called racist. Here's Michelle Obama, who's promoting a new book on her special fashion, and sat down with People magazine and said the following in SOT 26.
As women of color, that the way our hair naturally grows out of our head, it's beautiful, but if we struggle to make it look like the standard, that means we are spending thousands of hours and lots of money straightening out what is naturally curly hair, right? And that takes time out of your life. It costs money.
Okay. So what she's saying is she's bitter because society's standards, in her view, don't allow black women to just walk around with their natural hair. That is bullshit. Black women can walk around with whatever hair they want. Only in Michelle Obama's warped mind do white people not like them unless their hair looks like white hair. And here's the other thing. The nerve of this woman to pretend that black women are the only women who have to spend a bunch of time getting their natural hair to, quote, conform to these alleged society standards. Because virtually every woman I know, every woman spends a shit ton of time on her hair and wants it to look better than God made it. It's not a black thing. It's a human thing, and it's especially a woman thing. But she's always reducing everything to race.
There are a lot of people who watch this show, and they pray for me all the time. And they say, Roland, please, do you have to cuss? And I really try my best not to cuss. But in this case here, I just got to go ahead and say, Megyn Kelly, please shut the fuck up. You literally don't know shit about black people. You don't know shit about black women and hair. In fact, you're so fucking stupid, Megyn, you can't even follow the news. Antoine, go to my iPad. There is something, Megyn, called the Crown Act. It was first passed in the state of California, which forbid hair discrimination in America. Congresswoman Bonnie Coleman has been trying to get it passed on the federal level. It passed the House, but Republicans in the Senate actually blocked it. So yeah, numerous states have actually passed the Crown Act. Even Republican as conservative as Texas passed the law called the Crown Act. We have examples of black men and black women who have been discriminated against because of their hair. If your dumbass Megyn Kelly could do any fucking research, you would realize it's an issue. Take this. Last year, the American Screening had to pay $50,000 to settle an EEOC race discrimination lawsuit. Why was that the case? It's because a black woman, Megyn, was fired from her job because of her natural hair texture. Listen to what it says. According to the lawsuit, oh, Megyn, this is from EEOC.gov. The Trump people actually left the story up. It says, according to the lawsuit, a black employee interviewed and was selected for a sales position with American Screening while wearing a wig with long straight hair. After she stopped wearing the wig and started wearing her hair in its naturally curly texture, the company's owner instructed a human resource manager to counsel the employee about her hair and, quote, looking more professional, complaining that the worker, quote, came in with beautiful hair, unquote. The employee's hair, considered type 4A on the Andre Walker hair typing system, is commonly associated with people who, like the employee, are black. The owner then directed the employee to begin wearing her wig with straight hair again. When the employee continued to wear her natural hair, the company fired her. The company later hired a white worker in her place, according to the EEOC's lawsuits. Okay, Megyn, your dumbass is a lawyer. Here's the next graph, Megyn. Such alleged conduct violates Title VII Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibits firing employees or subjecting them to different terms and conditions of employment because of their race. The EEOC filed suit after first attempting to reach a pre-litigation settlement through its administrative conciliation process. The suit had been pending in the U.S. District Court for the Western District, Louisiana, and was resolved by a consent decree, which was entered by the court on April 4th, 2024. Now, Megyn, if you and likely your lily white staff could learn to do some research, what you will discover that there are a litany of cases, a litany of suits, a litany of settlements involving hair discrimination. In fact, several years ago, out of Virginia, a black woman with major credentials was being hired in Virginia. Well, guess what? The white man on the committee said, I don't particularly like those things in her hair. I don't like those cornrows, those braids. And so they did not give her the job. So guess what? She sued and she won, including back pay. So there's a long history, Megyn, in America, in numerous places where the issue of hair is there. So when Michelle Obama is talking about hair, you got white people, white bosses, white folks in media who, we don't like those curls. We don't like those bangs. Oh, we don't like braids. Oh, we don't like natural hair. This is very common. We've had folks in media who've had to deal with that. Women who've been anchors, women who've been meteorologists, who've actually sued because of this. We've dealt with this at the National Association of Black Journalists. And so, Megyn, if your lily white ass would go talk to some black people at Sirius or some other places, you might know this. Go talk to some black folks in the makeup room. Go hear from some black actresses who talk about the difficulties being on set with people who know how to do black makeup and do black hair. See, when you are a white woman, Megyn Kelly, like yourself, you are oblivious to the realities of women of color in this country and all the stuff they have to deal with. You know why? Because you are a blonde-haired white woman who gets to do things her way. And so you don't understand what it means to be a black woman or a Latina or an Asian woman when in America, this country is established based upon white as the standard. So remember when I said folks in media, what they had to deal with? Well, guess what? Brittany Noble, who joined Black Star Network, she knows this very well. She was a top anchor in Mississippi and dealt with a white news director dealing with her hair and went through a multi-year battle because of it. Brittany, tell folk what the hell you had to deal with natural hair and a white boss.
It wasn't just in Mississippi, Roland. It's everywhere that I've worked at in TV news locally. Even this time last year, I was told that I had to take down my locks by January of 2025. And then when I was back in 2018, when I was working in Mississippi, my boss told me that I needed to look like a beauty queen. I did try to file a lawsuit. I did go to the EEOC.
Hold on one second. I know Reese's got to go, but I want Reese to, I want you to finish the story. But Reese is about to go, but I got to get Reese to weigh in on this, and then you're going to finish with your story. Reese, go.
Well, first of all, I'm not explaining racism to her because that's her currency. She traffics in racism. She knows good and motherfucking well that you cannot be a black woman. You cannot be the first lady of the United States with an afro like Angela Davis. So she's gaslighting. But bitch, if you know all your white girlfriends have to spend thousands of dollars on getting their hair done, then what the fuck is the problem with Michelle Obama saying that she got to spend money to get her hair done? Look, I got to spend money to get my hair done, chill. It costs money to look this good, okay? Right now, this might be Brazilian or some maybe Malaysian, but I might have a little flip over curly stone in. Whatever. Black women, we could do whatever the hell we want to do. And that's what you're really mad about. What you're really mad about is that you ain't got the sauce. You ain't got the seasoning of Michelle Obama. You can't sell a book about your thigh-high boots, about your Gucci nothing, about your hair, about your makeup, because you ain't popping like that. That's why you got to sit up on the fucking internet talking shit about the real badass forever First Lady, Michelle Obama. So stay mad, ho.
All right, that's Reese's perspective. Reese, I appreciate it. You got to go. So go right ahead and finish, Brittany.
I mean, it's just hard to hear Megan say the things that she did because it's truly, truly hard to be a TV news anchor and wear your hair the way that you want to wear your hair.
Now, you were anchoring in Mississippi when? How long ago?
I left back in 2018.
Okay, so this is 2025. And a lot has changed over the last several years. And so what I mean by that is there's an increasing number of sisters who are wearing their hair natural. They talked about it. I forgot who's the sister at ABC. She did something on
We've had
talking
some
about.
wins.
So we had some wins. But the Crown Act also has played a role in that because now you have legislation that has been enacted. And again, there's still efforts trying to get it happen on the federal level. But this notion of straightening your hair and having to wear it a certain way, this white standard, that is the reality, not just in television, but for black women in numerous industries. And again, the lawsuits prove it.
Yeah, absolutely. My lawsuit was thrown out. They could not connect race to hair. And we know that.
Which is utterly ridiculous.
Right.
Which is ridiculous. Nola?
Oh my goodness. So I have hair trauma every single day. As a woman with natural hair, with locks, I am told things like, oh, your hair is so beautiful for locks. You know, I hear that all the time. And what they really are saying is that we don't consider locks to be beautiful or that they can be sexy and glamorous. And thank you so much for showing us that they can be. So it is always about the person that's hurling the insult. It's always about them. Right. And so Megyn Kelly clearly has a problem with black women, and she loves to do this thing. She loves to dismiss what we say all the time by saying, oh, it's always race with you people. In actuality, she's doing the thing. She's proving Michelle Obama's point, which is absolutely hilarious, right? But we know about the long history with black women in hair. My first black traumatic hair thing happened when I did a commercial when I was like 16, 17 years old, when the white French director wanted this white woman to just use a blow dryer for my curls. And, and I was like, no, I need a hot comb. Like, no. Y'all can't just do that to my hair. And you hired me with curly hair. And that scar has stayed with me as a grown woman in my 40s. Like these hair traumas that happen to black women every single day, that's just part of these microaggressions that we just have to like internalize and keep it moving. And so that's Roland. That's why I texted you if you was going to cue up Solange, don't touch my hair, because guess what? Nope. Don't touch my hair. Don't think about my hair. Don't talk about my hair. We are not the same, period.
Greg?
I'm just listening and always in appreciation of the hair of African people. And of course, as Malcolm X said, the most disrespected woman in the society, person in the society is the black woman. You know, I've stood at this point 14 times in the Cairo Museum and looked at a case of human hair wigs made by the ancient Egyptians with every kind of braid and curl that we see today. I'm talking about wigs, some of them going back 5,000 years. The micro braids, the dookie braids, everything. So anybody want to argue whether Egyptians are black, come on with me. I'll take you to the Cairo Museum and you'll see who they are. But, you know, listen to this. And Michelle Obama's new book, The Look, is magnificent. It's a photo book. It's a coffee table book, but it's really a journey. And she talks about those two terms that they were in the White House and how she had to literally craft herself, her hair, her look, her style, her fashion, to make sure that she was able to navigate those straits. And sometimes it meant even as she had her hair braided, they put a wig on. Why? Because I know y'all can't handle that. When her arms were out, although nobody complains about Ric Flair when she has, Marjorie Taylor Greene, when she has her arms out, whoo! No, but when Michelle Obama has her arms out, all of a sudden there's this kind of suppressed desire that comes out as contempt on behalf, particularly of white men who are really desiring black women, if we really look too close at it. But all that on one side, I'm just listening here. My sister, Ajwa Asamoah, one of the architects of the Crown Act, of course, this fight continues. There's a Crown Act that passed in Texas, wasn't it? And they still went after that boy.
Yep.
Covered that. So I'll end with this as it relates to Megyn. I think the problem that she has here on the Black Star Network and in the black community generally is that no one cares about the sprigs vomiting out of your unmoisturized, melanin-deficient scalp, Afghan hound.
Well, now, since Megyn, since you call yourself an attorney, why don't you go look up the case EEOC versus Catastrophe Management Solutions? This is a case out of Alabama, again, alleging hair discrimination. And that's the thing that, again, folk like you don't understand. See, Megyn Kelly, here's the whole deal. You are so shameful and despicable that what you want to do is you want to attack Michelle Obama at any turn. You want to single her out and trash her, but your ignorance is showing in this case because you don't even understand that what she was talking about, the time and energy and money that black women have to spend on their hair, is often a result not because of looks, not because of it takes time, energy, and money to get your hair straight. In many cases, black women are having to do that in response to white standards in the workplace, Megyn. So again, you are showing how ignorant you are about the law, about race, and about gender. And so when you come out and make some dumbass comments, you literally make my job easy. Because I didn't even have to work hard to counter your sheer stupidity. And so you consider your serious show and your show and you own, and you got your right-wing company, and you're launching this right-wing streaming channel, and you're doing all of those things. But Megyn understands, every time your ignorant ass says some stupid shit like this here, we gonna use this show that I own, that also stream, to counter your stupidity. So when people are Googling and they come across you and your whiny ass complaining about Michelle Obama and hair, they're going to also come across this video. And they're going to actually see the facts. Because, see, what I laid out were simply actual facts. And so, Megyn, I'll help you. Go to my iPad, Antoine. Megyn, if you simply go to right here, thecrownact.com, then you will actually see the legislation and how, Dove, National Urban League, the Color of Change, Western Center on Law and Poverty, how they are working to combat this. Then you'll see right here the 2023 Crown Workplace Research Study. Why don't you do this here? Go to Google and just very simply, Megyn, type in black woman and EEOC and hair lawsuit, and you'll see the numerous cases where these things exist, as if you actually care. And so I don't care for your show. I don't care for your perspective, because you're not actually trying to have real debate and dialogue What you want to do is show your hate. You want to sit here and yell at Taylor Swift, and you want to trash Jamel Hill, and you want to trash Michelle Obama, with all that back and forth. And I really do not have time for a petulant, childish, raging, screaming, yelling white woman of privilege and all of her nonsense. But I will say this, Megan, when you decide to open your mouth and you want to speak about black women and hair or black people, issues like this here, trust me, I will be here to smack your ass every single time with truth and facts. So I'm going to close on this here, because when we did our Crown Act special, I reached out to my girl, India Ari, and of course, she has a famous song that deals with the issue of hair. And when we did that Crown Act special after the first year, she did this special song just for me. So, Megan, this is for your ignorant, simple, bland strand blonde hair. Check this out.
I am India Ari. This is Joe Cross. And this is my jam. Hey. Little girl with the press and curl. Age 8, I got a Jerry curl. 13 and I got a relaxer. I was the source of so much laughter. 15 when it all broke off. 18 and I went all natural. February 2002, I went on and did what I had to do. Cause it was time to change my life, to become the woman that I am inside. 97 dreadlocks all down. I looked in the mirror for the first time and saw that, hey, I am not my hair. I am not the skin. I am not your expectation. No, I am not my hair. I am not the skin. I am the soul that lives within. Da 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 da. Good hair means curls and waves. Bad hair means you look like a slave. At the turn of the century, it's time for us to redefine who we be. You can shave it off like a South African beauty. Got it on lock like Von Molly. You can rock it straight like Oprah Winfrey. If it's not what's on your head, it's what's underneath. Then say, hey, I am not my hair. I am not the skin. I am not your expectations. No, I am not my hair. I am not the skin. I am the soul that lives within. Does the way I wear my hair make me a better person? Does the way I wear my hair make me a better friend? Oh, does the way I wear my hair determine my integrity? I am expressing my creativity. So consider this for a moment. This song is actually not about hair. It's about self-definition and how we define each other. So there's a difference in identifying with something and identifying as something. And so in this song, I'm saying that I identify with my external characteristics, with my blackness, with my beauty, but I identify as my soul. And the truth is, racism and discrimination is actually born out of identifying people as their external characteristics. And so we needed legislation to say that people can wear their hair however they want to at work. Sad that we need it, glad that we have it. So, this is our song. I am not my hair. I am not the skin. I am not your expectation. No, no. I am not my hair. I am not this skin. I am a soul that lives within.
That's why black-owned media matters. And that's why this show matters. Let me thank Reese, Nola, Greg for being on the show. Brittany, I appreciate it as well. Folks, this is why y'all support this show, because we ain't going to be silent. Okay? We ain't buying our heads. We ain't backing down from nobody. And we going to check any of these fools who want to come at any of our people. And so when you support this show, you're supporting this show, you're supporting this network, you're supporting our staff, the ability to be able to cover these stories. And so we've got some new shows coming down the pipeline, and that's why black-owned media matters. And guess what? It's a whole bunch of rich folks sitting here and say, I ain't getting no $69 million settlement like Megyn Kelly did when TV One canceled my show. I didn't get a $69 million when CNN didn't offer a new contract. But you know what? It don't matter, because we're here and we're going to use our voice. Support us via Cash App. Use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here, bottom left-hand corner. You can use that for credit cards as well. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Checks and money order. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 7-0196. Download the Black Star Network app. Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Also, be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Available. Bookstores nationwide. Get the go online. Get it as well. Get the audio version I read on Audible. Be sure to, of course, support our Black Star Network. Get our swag, get our shirts. All right, y'all see me wearing the sweatshirt. I had this as a T-shirt, but this is the sweatshirt. Don't blame me. I voted for the black woman. Come on, switch. Antoine, zoom out, switch. Come on. Hurry up. Thank you. Come on. All right, y'all, this is the sweatshirt. Don't blame me. I voted for the black woman. So be sure to get our shirt, sweatshirts, our T-shirts, our mugs, wall art, all that good stuff. You can get it. ShopBlackStarNetwork.com. ShopBlackStarNetwork.com. Also, get our black-owned products in our marketplace. You see everything to my left right here. All of these products are available at ShopBlackStarNetwork.com. Crossword puzzles. Man, we got skincare products. We got sauces, relishes, gym wraps. Man, you name it, we got it. So go to ShopBlackStarNetwork.com and go to our marketplace. Don't forget, also download the app Fanbase. They've already raised it's down 13.6 million, just 3.4 million left. If you want to equity stake in Fanbase, go to startengine.com/Fanbase for more information. Startengine.com Fanbase for more information. Folks, that's it. I'll see y'all tomorrow right here. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Hi!